So, welcome friends. Welcome once again to Amit Sinha IAS Academy, an online initiative. Now, let us just try to make this video very purposive. Of course, if you see my last couple of videos, where I have already mentioned to all of you that we are going to discuss about some of the issues pertaining to current affairs, yet they are relevant from UPSC point of view, and definitely as per your syllabus we have to match with those events of current affairs. So exactly I'm doing the same thing. I have just concluded the India-China relationship in my earlier video. Alright, so as I promised to all of you that I am going to also discuss with all of you the issue of Hong Kong. So now I'm again with this video on the issue of the controversy over Hong Kong. Now see, as far as Hong Kong is concerned, you should be very clear with the location of Hong Kong on the eastern coast of China. So especially in the eastern southern coast of China, Hong Kong is located. It's a small piece of you can say the coastal area, the coastal city, which is not having more than you can say let's say 1.5 million population. Now that particular city is actually Hong Kong, which is understood to be one of the economic powerhouses of entire Asian economies. Alright, and definitely the issue of Hong Kong from both the Western world's perspective and as well as from the perspective of China, it is important. So first and foremost, let us try to identify that where Hong Kong can be asked to you as a question in either in prelims or maybe in the mains examination by UPSC. So let me very clear on this particular aspect. Now see, as far as the details about Hong Kong is concerned, of course it is being covered in the Hindu newspaper or other newspapers as well very frequently these days. Alright, even today's newspaper also covers the information regarding the British government allowing visa approval for many of the Hong Kongers who want to now move from Hong Kong to Britain. So of course this is also a news of today in the today's newspaper. But primarily I'm telling to all of you that the issue of Hong Kong from the prelims point of view, it is important undoubtedly in the context of the kind of political setup that is there in the Hong Kong, and top of that also the location of Hong Kong can also be asked to you as a question in geography. Alright, so you should be very clear with the political map of the entire eastern coastal region of China. Fine. So that is the significance of Hong Kong from prelims point of view. Fine. On the other hand, from the mains point of view, now in the mains you can expect this question of Hong Kong, especially in GS paper 1. Now in GS paper 1, I believe that many of you must be surprised with this particular statement of mine, that in GS paper 1 how? So obviously in GS paper 1 you have a syllabus of world history, isn't it? So in world history a question can anytime be asked to you on the issue of Hong Kong, and there itself you can be asked a question in the context of analyzing the entire developments that actually has taken place in Hong Kong in the context of the concept of, you can say, new colonization or new colonialism in Hong Kong. Fine. So the idea that we have to understand is that what kind of question can be asked to you in the mains. Now see, a question can be asked to you in the mains is that, do you consider the declaration of Hong Kong as a special autonomous region, SAR, as a special autonomous region or a special administrative region, SAR, in 1997 was an attack on neo-colonialism, So this question can be asked to you in world history segment of GS paper 1. Fine. So there this issue is important. As far as the direct question on Hong Kong is concerned, definitely it will not be asked to you in other papers like paper 2 or paper 3, whatever you can say. In paper 2 you can use this information while analyzing the, of course, the Sino-Indian relationship, if at all the political aspect of these two countries' relationship can be asked to you. So there you can use the information of Hong Kong in terms of giving a better analysis in your answer. So that is the use of Hong Kong as far as paper 2 is concerned, GS paper 2 is concerned. But largely in GS paper 1 in the mains as a part of world history, this issue is relevant. Alright. So let me first of all explain to you that what do you mean by this new colonialism, the word that I have used. Alright. So neocolonialism is the, you can say, the new terminology of the 20th century, when after the process of decolonization started taking place, where the so-called mother countries started leaving the colonies one by one. Of course, they didn't want to leave the colonies completely. So political liberation did take place. Political liberation did take place in the period of decolonization, but economic and cultural hegemony of the mother country remained over the colonies. Now this is actually known as neo-colonialism. Fine. So in this context only you have to analyze the issue of Hong Kong. Okay? So now just try to understand what is the issue of Hong Kong and what are the recent controversies on which the Hong Kong has found a prime importance in the newspaper these days, especially in the world segment, world affairs segment. Alright. So I am starting with the story of Hong Kong. Let's see. Hong Kong. Now Hong Kong, I just told you, is a coastal city, of course, in the nearby the mainland China. Now this particular city, Hong Kong, came into prominence by the Britishers only. Britishers brought this city into prominence under the opium trade. Alright. So Canton trade, the Canton trade we have discussed in the classes of course, modern India. Again, I'm repeating here, the Canton trade was such where the Britishers used to sell the opium in the Chinese illegally, to the Chinese illegally, of course, in lieu of receiving from China tea and coffee. Alright. So they used to produce opium in India, of course, and from here they used to transport opium in China. And this particular trade relationship was known as Canton trade relationship, which led to the outbreak of first opium war in 1842. So of 1839 to 42 in fact. So of course in this particular war, the first opium war, the Chinese territory at that point of time was ruled by the Qing dynasty. Alright. Qing dynasty or Qing dynasty you can say. The Chinese territory was ruled by the Qing dynasty, and of course in this first opium war the Britishers were able to defeat the Qing dynasty in China. And after that they had to cede, they had to give away Hong Kong to the British East India Company. So the company received Hong Kong from the Qing dynasty. Alright. And then finally, of course, the company, when company's power was also overtaken by the British government. Alright. So then the British government signed a pact with the Qing dynasty. British government signed an agreement with the Qing dynasty in 1898. Now you can see in 1898 this agreement was signed. Fine. And once this agreement was signed in 1898, it was signed in the context of having Hong Kong with the British government for 99 years on lease. So for 99 years on lease, Hong Kong was given to the British government. Now since then, the Britishers have been, of course, entering into the area of Hong Kong. Fine. So Britishers' interference in Hong Kong increased tremendously after this particular point of time. Now, obviously, in 1949, when China became the People's Republic of China, of course, the national consciousness, the so-called sovereign consciousness, they started rising, and finally China was able to negotiate with British government in terms of leaving the territory of Hong Kong permanently. Now in that context only, in 1984, the British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Now Margaret Thatcher was the British Prime Minister in 1984. So Margaret Thatcher signed an agreement with the Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping. So Deng Xiaoping was the Chinese president at that point of time. Of course, with him, Margaret Thatcher signed the agreement in terms of leaving the control over Hong Kong altogether. Then finally, they agreed to sign a joint declaration. Now in this joint declaration, what they agreed, that since the lease of Hong Kong was given for 99 years, which is going to be ended in 1997, मतलब 99 साल के बाद 1997 में लीज खत्म हो जाएगा, तो उसके बाद हांगकांग का क्या, उसके बारे में एग्रीमेंट साइन हुआ 1984 में। तो 1997 के बाद क्या होगा हांगकांग में, इसके मुद्दे के ऊपर 84 में ही ब्रिटिश प्राइम मिनिस्टर मार्गरेट थैचर और चाइनीज लीडर देन जियोपिंग ने एक एग्रीमेंट साइन किया, इसका जॉइंट डिक्लेरेशन साइन किया, जिस जॉइंट डिक्लेरेशन में यह मेंशन किया गया कि 1997 के बाद, which means after 1997, in this period, after 1997 till 2047, that is for 50 years, from 1997 the Britishers will leave Hong Kong, क्योंकि 99 साल के बाद लीज खत्म हो रहा है, तो Britishers will leave Hong Kong, but the Chinese government will have to follow certain conditions, certain conditionalities. And what was the condition? Condition was that from 1997 for 50 years, which means till 2047, for 50 years China will protect, China will support the liberal policies, independent judiciary, individual freedom, protecting human rights, all this together in the region of Hong Kong. And that particular, you can say, the features of these all principles, they were laid down under their concept of basic law. Basic law is nothing, it is basically a constitutional document. A constitutional document which will govern Hong Kong for next 50 years. So what Britishers did, Britishers said that yes, we will leave your territory, but for next 50 years you will have to maintain the basic law. Alright, is it clear? Now in this context, what was the basic law? Basic law simply pertains to the modern, valuable, fundamental rights which are of course professed in every democratic country in the world, but not in China, because these all features are not the features of Chinese political system, which is a communist system altogether. So in that way you have to understand the basic law was accepted by the Chinese government to be allowed in the case of Hong Kong once the transfer of power will take place in 1997. So Hong Kong will be treated by China as a especially autonomous region, or SAR. Alright, so in this particular context only from 1997, Hong Kong became an SAR territory for China. In that way, China had to maintain a philosophy of one country, two systems. One country, two systems in Hong Kong. Fine. So this what actually was accepted by the Chinese government to the British government in 1984 agreement. Alright, this is how the transfer of power in Hong Kong was mooted. But surprisingly, it is not mentioned that what will happen after 2047 for Hong Kong. Whether basic law will remain there or it will be struck down, what is the future of Hong Kong, it is not at all clear or clearly mentioned in this particular joint declaration between Britain and of course China. Fine. So this what actually has been the system of Hong Kong. Now in this system, what you have to understand, the Hong Kong has a very typical political system designed for protecting these all fundamental valuable rights for any human being. Fine. Therefore they have an executive council, and executive council is of course governed by the chief executive. The chief executive is just like a prime minister or a chief minister, you can say in that way, a chief minister of Hong Kong. So chief executive will be the head of the executive in terms of executing, implementing the basic law, its policies, and also formulating the budget for Hong Kong. So these all things are actually done by the chief executive, who is nominated by the executive council. Now in executive council you have 30 members, and of course 15 are directly elected and 15 are nominated. So in there Chinese have a huge interference. in this particular aspect only, Chinese have a huge interference in placing their own nominees in the executive council and finally having the chief executive only on the approval of the Chinese Communist Party to remain there in Hong Kong. So this is how indirectly China is still controlling the political affairs of Hong Kong. But the idea is the masses of Hong Kong, the population of Hong Kong are largely from Britain, are largely from Singapore, are largely from Southeast Asia, and are largely from other parts of the world, including even the Chinese over there. So few of the Chinese also who actually loved this particular setup of Hong Kong, they now profess the democracy to be instituted in Hong Kong. On the other hand, they are pro mainland Chinese supporters also who say that Hong Kong should be completely merged under one country, one system policy of China. Alright. Now that actually has been the issue of tension inside Hong Kong. ठीक है, तो वहाँ पे प्रो डेमोक्रेटिक फैक्शंस भी हैं और प्रो एस्टैब्लिशमेंट, प्रो स्टेटस को एस्टैब्लिशमेंट भी है जो चाइना के साथ जुड़ना और मिलना चाहते हैं ऑल टुगेदर. आप समझ सकते हैं कि 5,000 soldiers or troops are always placed in Hong Kong to maintain the Chinese control over Hong Kong. And if there is any you can say opportunity of emergency or any you can say incidents of emergency, all right, or let's say a war, of course these 5,000 forces will implement the guidelines, of course the dictates of the Chinese Communist Party sitting in Beijing how to govern Hong Kong. So this is how Hong Kong has always been put under pressure by the Chinese Communist Party there in Hong Kong. So this political establishment, this particular historical development actually has been there in the case of Hong Kong. Fine. But what is the recent controversy? What are the recent controversies? See, I have listed over here a few of the very significant controversies in Hong Kong. Now, one thing you have to understand at the outset, that China does not respect democracy. China does not respect the basic fundamental rights of freedom of speech, expression, etc. So definitely the same thing has happened in the case of China in 1989 with the Tiananmen Square killings. So Tiananmen Square killings is one of the blots on the Chinese Communist Party or Chinese Communist government in China, where they have killed more than 10,000 students who protested in Tiananmen Square, just like Connaught Place of Delhi, so in Beijing. So in Tiananmen Square, to demand democracy in China, they all were killed by placing the army tanks in Tiananmen Square in 1989. So that was the history of China, where China has never allowed anyone to proliferate in the context of demanding democracy, fundamental rights for the individuals. Fine. This is how a high state control is there in China. Fine. Now, in that background, Hong Kong issue has to be interpreted, because now you see Hong Kong, because of the of course the Britishers occupation of Hong Kong for such a long period, Hong Kong has almost got modernized. It has completely got westernized, all right. Whereas the mainland China, they are still strictly following the core features of communism. Now, this two set of ideologies, one is of course the liberalism versus communism. Now, communism does not allow liberalism to proliferate. On the other hand, liberalism does not accept communism to proliferate. So of course there is a struggle of two ideologies in Hong Kong, and therefore the recent incidents are only the manifestations of the conflict of two ideologies in Hong Kong. Alright, so what you see, first manifestation was in the last summer of 2019, where we see on the issue of extradition bill. Extradition bill was passed by the Hong Kong Executive Council on the support of the Chief Executive. Now in the extradition bill, the proposal was to send anyone from Hong Kong to mainland China if at all mainland China demands the extradition of that particular individual from Hong Kong. So obviously this was protested heavily, and finally what happened? The Executive Council or the Chief Executive of Hong Kong had to withdraw or abandon this particular bill. So finally this bill was abandoned. Then you see the next issue that has cropped up this year 2020 is what? National Anthem Bill. Now the Chinese government has passed a national anthem bill which is also implementable or implemented, which is also going to be implemented on Hong Kong. Now as per the national anthem bill, the Chinese anthem is to be sung in every public gathering, schools, colleges, and of course official buildings in Hong Kong. And it has to be taught to the children, to the youth in Hong Kong, how to recite the Chinese anthem in Hong Kong as well. Now this particular issue has been resisted by the young youth, or you can say youth and the young people of China, especially who are pro-democratic in nature. So obviously they have resented, but at the top of that, National Anthem Bill also carries that provision of very harsh punishment if someone is found to be insulting the Chinese anthem there in Hong Kong. So punishment is of course for 3 years jail and as well as more than 50,000 Hong Kong dollar as a fine. So 50,000 Hong Kong dollar as a fine, which is roughly around $6,450 US dollar as a fine. So these are two provisions of the penalties or the punishment if someone is found to be insulting the Chinese anthem in Hong Kong. So that's the reason why again the people out there in Hong Kong are protesting against the Chinese incursions, or Chinese you can say, of course aggressive policies there in Hong Kong. Fine. And top of that, recently on 22nd of May 2020, just you can say 10 days back, so 22nd of May 2020, China has passed National Security Bill. So National Security Bill has been passed by the People's Republic of China, in Beijing. Now this bill is going to apply also on Hong Kong. And as per the bill, no one in Hong Kong or any other part of the mainland China or any other part of China, in fact China state territory, they are going to raise any pro-democratic slogans, and top of that, they cannot subjugate the Chinese communist philosophies there in China, and top of that, they can also not collude with any third party to create dissensions against the Chinese authority in Hong Kong. So just like you can say the person who might be involved in any anti-Chinese activity can be easily arrested and put behind the bar in Hong Kong as well. Now this situation has really annoyed the majority of youth in Hong Kong, because now